Welcome back to the randInt podcast with Raffy and Chandra. Hooray! We had cheering before we even finished the intro. Yay! This is probably the most regular we have ever been in terms of recording and uploading. So, Chandra, I think you just need to spend all your time on the boat.
Yeah, I think I also still need to work out this whole how to make schedules work business.
Yeah.
Working
I
on
mean, this has been we've delayed it and done all sorts of stuff for the last little while. But anyway, we are recording. So, Chandra, what is our episode about this week?
Well, today, I guess something both of us have noticed as well is there's a lot of people who want to send stuff into space, and it seems to be pretty popular amongst the billionaire class who are like, all right, I have a lot of things, but I don't have anything in space. We've got
It's like space. Like, there's all these asteroids, but I don't have my junk up there. Like,
yeah,
I want to put stuff
there's all
there.
this other like I've got my junk all over the world, but not up there.
Amazon boxes. I've lit it everywhere, but like, what about
Exactly.
up there?
Exactly. Solar panels everywhere, you know, Richard Branson companies everywhere. But again, no space junk.
So we thought, yeah, we'd explore the
Thought the
why,
interesting is
and
like, why are these people who are supposedly, very already successful and don't really need to do anything else? Why does there seem to this, trend to keep making new projects? And a common one is space, but I think that's just an example of it.
so what's your thoughts on it, Mister? I'm sitting on a boat, so like that's like closer to more to the billionaire class. So let's see what Chandra thinks, dear listeners, as a resident billionaire in the
No,
making.
I'm more in the tight ass class. But right now, there was a dinner place we went to, and it was super wanky and super fancy. It's like this exclusive resort, and so I have anchored outside, and I have just hung up my laundry, and the people in the nice resort have a nice view of me. I'm not sure that's the privacy they were looking for, but I want to go there for lunch tomorrow. I think the thing that
Looking like a billionaire. Other people's needs. Who needs that? You can see my laundry. See my junk trunk.
I think one thing is the fact that people do like if you've worked that hard to get somewhere, it's very hard to stop working. And so I wonder if part of it is what's the next challenge?
As
You've
in,
clearly done one thing that's worked, and I think there is a natural draw to then think, okay, well, what's the next thing that I'm going to do that's going to work? And it obviously has to be bigger than the first thing. And since space is kind of unconquered, feels like a big thing.
like, don't you think it's a bit dichotomous? You have the billionaire class doing this on one side, and it's for whatever reason we'll get into why space seems to be the thing. But then you have the other class, right? Like, and then the most common thing I can think of is like the guy who's the founder of WiseTech in Australia. It's like this logistics support software, and it's probably not quite billionaire, but he's up there. But he spends his time with mistresses and buying people's property and trying for sexual favors. So clearly, he doesn't care about space. And you go, all right, like, I mean, you want to go down the disparate housewives, but then, and people have all sorts of interests, and I'm sure, like, Gary Harvey, because that's Harvey Norman, he owns like a ranch and does like racing horses. Like, again, doesn't care about. So there's like all these people that do like random other projects, right? But then it's like when you're like the 0.1% of the 0.1%, you're like, space. No? What's with the obsession with like, let's go over there? Like, we could just be screwing around and making reality TV, essentially. But they seem to hyper fixate on this one thing. What's your thought on that?
Hmm. Well, it does feel kind of like the next frontier, right? If you're gonna,
Yeah.
if you were like, I don't know, somewhere in
Unconquered.
the, like you were in ye olde England, you're like, haha, I'm gonna sail that way to the edge of the disc, edge of this flat world, and take a photo from the edge of the flat world. That's kind of like new frontier, right? Like no one's been there before, don't really know if it
Yeah.
works, and it feels like the unknown, exploring the unknown. And even back then,
But
I imagine that also required quite a bit of resources, and so it would have been hard to fund that to get that going. And it was,
do you reckon that's one of the things? Like, it's so expensive that only I can do it. Like, it's kind of a
yeah,
little bit of
there's
like
a high
like
barrier to entry.
Well, it's literally called gravity. Yeah, fair enough. It's a pretty physical law. That's the
I
barrier to
think that,
entry.
and I mean, what about you? What do you think is some of the reasons as to why people might want space specifically?
I think it's one of those. So I think it's twofold. So I think A, you're right. It's a high barrier to entry. Like, it's not so like you got to remember that the total wealth for some of these people is higher than like the median of some countries. Like essentially, if you have their wealth as GDP, you haven't had a single individual controlling more than nation states
Mm,
for pretty much any time in history. Like there are rich people, but not this rich. I think there was like that thought experiment, which was like if you got $10,000 since the time of the building of the Great Pyramids till now, you would have half as much wealth as you got it every single day. Like just to put into perspective, and I did the numbers, and it's true. Like it does actually like inflation and then investment, blah blah blah. Like take out all
be
the other.
interesting though to compare this to some of the like the people that the monopoly laws were made for.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's the
back in the
Rockefellers
US,
and the yeah.
exactly. And I
But
guess that's another parallel there as well is the interest in building the next infrastructure.
yeah,
And so if you build out the entire railroad thing to a whole country, well, ta-da, you now have the infrastructure. Or if you control all the steel mining in a country, ta-da, magic. I imagine they were doing pretty well back then too.
I'm sure they were. Like, don't get me
Well,
wrong,
they
but
also had nation state level kind of
no.
discrepancies.
So this is where I disagree. I don't think they had because the thing is right because it's all compounding laws, right?
Mm,
So at a time, and especially if you think back to then, everything was tied to gold, and the biggest reserve of gold at the time was still in the treasury. So I don't think they could get to this stratospheric level. Whereas now, I just feel like if you've got obscene amounts of wealth,
mm,
the only way you can kind of possibly deploy it, because it's just a very expensive endeavor, right, is to
yeah.
go for these literal neutrals that like nothing else is worthy of your thing. And then yes, I think part of it is like the whole
I
your
guess if
ability
you
to have
have a
the
big
next.
lever. Oh, here we go. I just did a little quick check. Uh, John Rockefeller, at his
Yeah.
time, his peak, he had his fortune peaked at 1.5% of the GDP of the country.
Okay,
Uh,
what Elon's right now? Like I
well,
mean,
he's
right
just
now
cracked
probably.
1.6%.
Oh, there
So
you
I'm
go.
not
All right.
exactly, I'm not sure exactly where it is right now. I hear
Hey,
he's not so popular.
what are you talking about? Like he's like he's my favorite. Yeah, yeah. I definitely want to keep my head light and not like a Molotov cocktail in the car park.
I mean, turns out the evil supervillain arc may be bad for you.
But I think one of the other things is like, you want to build this stuff. Yeah, there's probably a bit of power, control, and ego. But I think ultimately it's the immortality race, right? Like, I think you can't
Mm,
stay
that's
committed.
true.
And like, to tie it back in with like what you were saying about his film John Batman, right? So it's like if you went to Mars first and you got to plant your Musk flag or your grandson, like Virgin Mars would be like the name of the next mountain because you know what? You got there first. So it's like because you think about it, like the space race with like the Russia versus the US was about who could plant their flag on the moon. Like it's
Yeah.
literally like here's a piece of cheese with our flag on it. And then currently it's the rovers. Like, yep, NASA got there, then China's got there, then India wants to go. Like, I think the combination is great. But it used to be like this. So therefore, that's yeah, it's like Starlink, right? It's like that's my space junk that's obscuring your astrophotography shots. Yep, those screens are mine. yeah.
Sure.
Uh, yeah.
I
Like
guess it
your
is a way
thoughts
of
on that?
building a legacy because, like, can't say that's really something I understand personally really well. I'm like, here for a while, then you disappear. But if you wanted to have a legacy, then
Yeah, listeners, just keep watching. We'll see what arc Chandra is on. He's just decided that with the podcast we are going to record for posterity's sake his arc right on this project.
Hey, I haven't even started
I
my
scribe
project.
in space.
I
He
think
could
I'm too
only
lazy for
scribe
that.
in space.
I feel like that requires far more effort than I can possibly like keep up.
I mean, hey, I'm pretty sure it's not like okay, Elon's right because it just seems to be like well, sure, Bezos is just like hiring people to do it because his name on it, right? Like I don't see him actually sitting there, calculating out like the trajectories of his landers. But yeah, it's kind of like
But yeah, on the
other
point
thing.
though, I guess legacy is something that people do want to build, and I guess this is kind of like a way of building an outsized legacy.
Yeah, and it was interesting. So I was looking up. Yeah, space is obviously the current frontier, and it's like the flavor of the month. And obviously the jobs and the supporting teams. So it's like, yeah, my team won for the best. But then I'm like, oh, like historically there used to be this the whole legacy arc used to go down philanthropy and university. Like I mean, Bill Gates is doing that. He's not doing the same thing.
I
There was
guess Bill
something
Gates'
with it.
legacy building thing was probably his foundation.
Yeah. I mean, also maybe it's the fact that Windows is so entrenched, like Microsoft so it's like none of the very few tech
Because
companies.
Amazon is not.
Huh?
Because Amazon
No,
is not.
no, like as in okay. So the comparison is like Amazon's been around for a while now, and it's great at topic and all that stuff, right? But it has
Mm,
legitimate, like AliExpress is there and whatnot.
mm,
Amazon is like US and other allied countries, but
sure.
there's like and so it's almost like you built the thing, and they've managed to do something which kind of like crossed it on, like just like IBM when IBM was cool,
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
everything has its heyday.
yeah. But they
You probably know that everything has its heyday and will disappear. So you're like, what's the next heyday?
Yeah, but I think Bill Gates at least can kind of point to that thing and go, hey, it's still in its heyday. Like it's still reinvented itself enough to
Mm-mm.
kind of go, yeah, it's still relevant.
Yes,
Whereas
he
I
looks
don't
at
know. Like,
Windows 8 and goes, look at that.
yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I
Mm,
mean, Mac has nothing on this. You know,
mm,
right click menu. Yes, Control Alt Delete, blue screen of death,
bastard.
all features that. But
Yeah, she
it's recently you gotta see like well maybe it's not recently because you mentioned like the railroad type. Like it's not just I'm gonna Google it. Like I want to actually write out.
mm.
Like I wonder if there must have been people back in the day buying these things for exactly the same reason. It's just like the control that.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. But yeah, I guess the other thing is it's kind of like, oh, you kind of get to control where people as a group move then as well if you do space. That's the thing.
Yeah, like literally because you're on a rocket ship, so there's gonna yeah, like you literally get to choose where to go. Yeah. What's your feeling on this? Thing? Is it a bad thing?
Go again?
I was just saying, like, what's your feeling on it? Like the bad thing?
Yeah, can't see it being a great thing because traditionally, let's say it was the government going for the space race. Like, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Whatever. At the end of the day, there's a bunch of people that kind of voted in a government that decided that was a good idea, and there's also a way that then people could be like, well, that's a silly idea. Let's get rid of you and put somebody else there. Whereas now those big achievements are somewhat out of people's control.
Yeah, I think I actually have a counterpoint to this, which is like,
Mm.
okay, from the media and music, which directly involves other people right now, I think to control the narrative, that's bad. Like, you stifle the sharing of ideas, and like that's all it is. Like, you should like actually have free speech, like stuff, and yes, I agree about that. But by and large, if you're not allowed to share your ideas so people can critique it, like how do you have better ideas? It's like, like,
Mm-mm.
and then actually the basis of like our political system, right? It's like you have rival parties. They're meant to, like, I mean, I know it doesn't actually end up like that and it's really messy, but it's meant to be, I have an idea, you have an idea, but the thing that you think will actually, like, that's what, it's like, well, it's just being done now, right? For
Mm.
my president, drink anything. But on the other side of space, where there is no actual what you call it. It's not directly involving people yet. Like it will, right?
Mm.
But say Elon right now is like the reusable rocket was a dream for NASA. They kind of did the space shuttle thing. It didn't really kind of catch on. It wasn't fully reusable. That was like, I remember seeing the first video. I'm like, that's just fundamentally going to change everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you not want like someone with way too much money and like yes, it could be NASA, but that's taxpayer funded dollars so that you have real world problems to solve. This is essentially inventing a problem that doesn't need to be solved right now. Like there's plenty of things that you can spend your money on, but it's just like some guy who's just like, I want to tinker with like blowing shit up in
This looks
space,
fun.
right?
I'm going to do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Usually, people will do it better because that's what they happen to be interested in.
Yeah. So it's like, don't you let them play on that game? Because it's like, like Ice Cream, right? It was just you trying to tinker with AI to create
Yeah,
this thing that you were like, yeah, the other one sucks.
it's like I want this for me. Everybody
Yeah.
else can.
And now it's a platform, and now it's like the that and the other. But it started off being like, a little pet project. And I feel like SpaceX was kind of like that. And also like to an extent like Starlink, right? Like, well, I remember originally reading the blog post on it. It was just like his broadband sucked in the US, but all the monopolies were too entrenched. There was too many legal things where you couldn't launch a faster. Like, Google tried to do Google Fi, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this isn't going to work because they just control too much infrastructure. Like, what if I build a new infrastructure? All right, well, I have a reusable rocket company. It can't be that hard to launch satellites and just cover everywhere. And now, like, again, too much power in the, like, now it's become a platform and people access it and whatnot. So I think it should be regulated and not just up to common grids. But that initial getting up, like getting the satellites up there and validating it, which is a hugely risky, it would just fail kind of experiment. Um,
And also, if you don't incentivize people to do that, no one's going to give it a crack.
yeah, but like it's like you incentivize by building out this thing that's just so crazy that everyone tells you it's going to be wrong that you go, well, I got like literally money to burn here. Like I could literally set it on fire and we would have an endless pit on fire for like the next 100 years. Yeah, right. Sure. You know what? I want to do that, but I want to do it in a rocket ship and make it go through. I mean, I want it to fly, but if it goes through, man, like
Yeah.
fair enough. Like sure, like you should probably do other things, but if I had to pick anyone to do it, yeah, fine. They've got money to grab.
At some stage, those projects, you go, maybe some checks and balances are a good idea. And that's a really hard thing because if there was checks and balances right from the start, it just wouldn't have happened. But then when it does work, you're like, this could be interesting. Like, for example, with the space one, you could take Starlink. Be like, yes, sure, Ukraine, use it. And then you're like, actually, now I don't like that country anymore, so please don't use it. On the one hand, you're like, well, he made it, so whatever, up to him. But it's almost become somewhat of a essential infrastructure, in a sense. And so then you're like,
Well, I mean,
if this is now an essential infrastructure, should that be, you know, should nobody else have a say on it?
I don't know. Well, they became a cartel because it's like, oh, my shipping routes are these. If you want to do this work, it needs to be me. Like you could block off sections based on your allegiance. And I think until the anti-monopoly stuff came in, and essentially, like, the other part of it is like all of this stuff eventually becomes a commodity. Like from a certain point, kind of gets into commodity.
And I think that's the good thing. Usually these things kind of end up, if something works, then other people like it can be done, and so then you start getting competition, and that works out all right. But there is often a weird gap period where maybe there's not. And also, sometimes these things are subject to manipulation. As an example, with the AI world, a bunch of the AI companies that have now done quite well, they did well by scraping lots of data off the internet for free, building their models, and now they're like, that shouldn't be allowed. No, 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 no.
I just loved it when like DeepSeek and I oh, hang on, wow, we are what minute are we? We first mentioned AI like 20 minutes in.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, this is the longest I think we've gotten with not mentioning AI. 23 minutes. Wow, this is a record. This is a record for the podcast. Wait, we need claps for this one. Yeah, so I just loved it when like R1 got released by DeepSeek, and then everyone's like, no, they stole our model, and then everyone's going like, oh yeah, tiny violin, I can hear it playing right now. I wish we had like the Instagram filters, like the sad one with the autumn leaves fall. It's like ChatGPT. Oh no, someone stole other people's work.
The similar equivalent one is like, for example, in the medical world, around drug development. Sometimes once you have a winning kind of drug, yes, of course there should be a patent on it. You should be able to get something from the research and money you pumped into making it. But then sometimes people use that money to try and change the rules around a bit to block other competitors from doing something even remotely similar. And so then you end up with a problem.
Yeah. Actually, there's a current. This is totally not on the topic for
Right.
today.
Yeah,
but
may not be for the might not be a balanced good.
yeah, so it's kind of like a little thing at the moment is like at the moment in the US because we have compounding pharmacy, so they make products based on the medical structure. So it's supposedly a law in Australia that allows us to compound things cheap, including like relatively new drugs that we can do for far cheaper for basically population good. But at the same time, like the US drug manufacturers are going, yeah, but like how are we meant to turn a profit on it? Yeah. So anyway, sidetrack there, but yeah. So overall, what's your take on the billionaire space race? Do you want it to continue? Do you want it to change? But what's your feeling?
I don't think it's possible to change it. I think what'll be interesting to see is if governments can adopt some of the money that, the billionaire people will waste working out how to do it well, and if government could follow soon after so that, do something at a tenth of the cost of what they used to do and use those learnings, then that's also pretty good. So then there's a bit of competition. All people can also, have representation benefit as well. But you do have to
What's this? Social good coming from the wannabe billionaire that's coming up soon?
nah, too much work. I think also got to incentivize it too. Otherwise, no one's going to do it.
Yeah, so my take on this is that we literally should let Elon like poke the bear, like just to have like he's basically using X as a little personal megaphone, right? Turn it into a literal race. Just go, you know what, Bezos? I'm gonna build a bigger rocket. Like literally turn it into Space Race Mark II. So they just outcompete each other to like
You can have
also it just means
shaped rocket. Got it.
yeah, but like also just like stop messing around with other stuff like government and this, that, and the other, and trying to win contracts that way. Get obsessed with your space race against your billionaire buddies. Leave the other stuff to.
I think if somebody wants to pull levers that they have and that's what they want to do, go for it.
Yeah. Well, with that, what do you think, dear listeners? What's your take on the billionaire space race or the billionaire class in general? What turn do you think Chandra's going to take in his goals to eventually join them? And leave us a comment over on Spotify or I think our email still like podcast at
yes, podcast app.
Yeah, or just if you're on
Alright.
social media, we are on randInt podcast on Instagram. So remember to like, subscribe, and leave feedback. We love getting feedback. So until next time, any final thoughts?
Decide on what your supervillain arc will be. Enjoy.
All right. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.